Hello everyone, this is Heather with Treasured Hometown. I'm coming today. I wanted to teach you all how to make this lovely little beach tote. Now the fringe is completely optional, so by all means, if you're not into the fringe or anything, you can just skip right over that step for it. But yes, it's a very large tote. Carry so much different stuff for it. We did do the super wide strap onto it, so that is much easier, I think, especially on the shoulder, so it distributes your weight a little bit more. I don't know, but usually if I go to the beach or something, I'm usually swimming laps a lot, so a lot of times my arms get really tired afterwards, so it makes it a little bit nicer for me to be able to carry the bag and all my stuff back after. I do have the entire pattern also available on my Etsy store. It's a photo PDF version of it, which does have photos of each step along the way. I will go ahead and post a link in the description for that listing specifically. And I look forward to making the bag with you. Be sure to share any photos if you make it. To start off this pattern, we'll need just a couple of supplies in order to do it. First thing we'll need is a pair of scissors. That's in order to be able to cut our yarn. We'll also need a crochet hook. We are using a 4.5mm crochet hook for this project. You're going to want some darning needles in order to weave in all of your ends. I do use a little threader for it also because I don't like the plastic darning needles at all, and I have a very difficult time trying to weave them in without one of those into the metal ones. It is possible to weave in your ends without the darning needles, but I find it more helpful. And then we're also going to need some yarn. For this project, I am using cotton yarn. This is actually Peaches and Cream. It is simply white yarn. You're going to need a total of about 375 yards of material for this one. Generally, I usually work off of a cone for them, but 375 yards is usually about what you'll need for this bag. This is a cotton yarn. You can use an acrylic, but acrylic over time does stretch out quite significantly more than the cotton yarn. So just keep that in mind when selecting your yarn to make this project. For this pattern, we're going to start off creating our slip knot. And then what we're going to do is chain 25. And then we're going to double crochet into the 4th chain from the end. And then we're going to double crochet into the next 20 stitches. And then into our last stitch here, we're going to do 7 double crochets into that stitch. And then we're going to double crochet into the next 22 stitches, going back down the side. All right, now for our next row, we're going to chain 3, turn our work, then double crochet into the next 21 stitches. Now as you can see, we're at the point where we did our 7 double crochets into the 1 stitch. So now what we want to do is put 2 double crochets in each of the next 7 stitches. All right, and then going down this side, we're wanting to do 1 double crochet into the next 22 stitches. For our next row, what we're going to want to do is chain 4 and then turn. Now for this, the first 3 chains count as a double crochet stitch, and then the 4th chain counts as a chain 1 space. So you're going to want to skip the next stitch, and then we want to double crochet into that next stitch. So chain 4, turn, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch. And then you want to chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch. Then chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch. And you want to continue, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch. Until you've repeated that a total of 9 times. All right, and then make sure you do your chain 1. Now, if you get lost or anything, you can see right here is where we did our 2 double crochets into that first stitch. So on top of that first double crochet, we're going to want to put 2 double crochets. And then we want to chain 1 and skip 1 stitch. And we want to repeat that 6 times. 2 double crochets into 1 stitch, chain 1, skip 1. All right, so now if you just want to double check, you should have 7. And make sure you chain 1 at the end of that last 2 double crochets into the 1. Then you want to, just like on the other side, double crochet into the next stitch and then chain 1. And you're going to want to repeat that 10 times. Double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1. And then into our last 2 stitches, we're just going to double crochet into both of those. And let's see how it's working out so far. Now for our 4th round, we want to chain 3, turn our work, and then double crochet into the next 21 stitches. Now that we have our 21 double crochets done, we should have ended on top of a double crochet stitch, but not yet to the 2 double crochets into the 1, and then the chain space is right in between. So into that chain 1 space, we want to put 2 double crochets, and then we want to double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Then we just want to repeat that 2 double crochets into the next stitch, and then double crochet into the next 2 stitches. And we want to make sure we repeat that 6 times. And now that we've reached the other side, we simply want to double crochet into the next 22 stitches. All right, now that we've completed round 4, just as a reminder that whenever we started round 3, it was a chain 4, so the chain 3, which was your first double crochet, and then the chain 1 before we started the first double crochet stitch. So that's where your last 2 stitches are going for round 4. Round 5 is we want to chain 4. So once again, this counts as a chain 3 counts as a double crochet, and then the 4th chain counts as a chain 1 space. So skip 1, and then what we're going to want to do is double crochet into the next stitch, and then chain 1, and we want to repeat that 9, and then skip 1 and repeat that 9 times. So our first repeat, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, and just keep repeating that. All right, now that we've done our last double crochet and our chain 1 and skipped 1, what we want to do here is 2 double crochets into the next stitch. Then you chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, and then you just want to do a repeat of the 2 double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, and then you just repeat that for 6 more times. Now you've done those repeats, and just as a little visual reminder for you, if you actually look at the pattern, you can see the same stitch where we started our first double crochet of the 2 double crochets into 1 stitch. They all kind of line up, with the exception of the straight double crochet rows. So yeah, they just kind of line up so that if you get lost at all, you can be able to have a little check there. Now going down the other side of the pattern, what we want to do is back to that same as in the beginning. We want to double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, and we're just repeating that 10 times. And then into our last 2 stitches, we're doing a double crochet into each stitch. Here we are at the end of round 5. Now for round 6, it's just basically kind of like a repeat of row 4, but a little bit different at the end. So we chain 3, turn our work, and then double crochet into the next 21 stitches. right, now here's where row 6 changes up just a little bit. Into our first stitch, we want to put 2 double crochets, and then we want to double crochet into the next 4 stitches. And then we want to repeat that 6 more times. 2 double crochets into the first stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches. Here we finished that. Just as a little visual reminder for in case, because I can understand it can be easy to get a little lost or confused, especially doing the repeats. Your 2 double crochets, if you notice, it always starts on a chain 1 space, and then you end with your last double crochet above the previous row. It's a double crochet 2 into 1, so you end up on the last one. So just as a little, if you get lost anywhere. And to finish up the row, what we want to do is simply double crochet into the next 22 stitches. All right, and there's the end of row 6. Row 7, what we are going to do is chain 4, turn, and then skip 1. Then what we want to do is double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, and skip 1. We had our chain 4, skip 1. And then our repeat, what we're going to be doing here is double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, and skip 1. And we want to repeat that for 9 times. All right, now we have our 9 repeats of that. Now what we want to do is into the next stitch, because we chained 1 and skipped 1 on the last one, we want to put 2 double crochets into that stitch to start our next repeat. And then we chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1. All right. And we want to do 6 more repeats of that. So it's 2 double crochets into the first stitch, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1. And we want to repeat that 6 more times. Right, now that we've finished all 6 of those repeats, what we want to do is do another repeat of the very beginning of the pattern. We want to repeat it 10 times. As a reminder, it's double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1. So we want to repeat that a total of 10 times down this side. And then into our last 2 stitches, go ahead and double crochet. Right, and that is row 7. For row 8, it's chain 3, turn your work, and then double crochet into the next 21 stitches. All right, now we have done our 21 double crochets going down this side. Now what we want to do is 2 double crochets into the next stitch, and then we want to double crochet into the next 6 stitches. And then you just want to repeat that 6 more times, which is simply 2 double crochets into the first stitch and then 1 double crochet into the next 6 stitches. Now that we've finished all those repeats, all we want to do now for the remainder of this row is a double crochet into the next 22 stitches. All right, now that we've completed row 8, now we can begin row 9. What we want to do for row 9 is chain 3, turn our work, double crochet into the next 21 stitches. All right, now we're towards the end of the bag here. So what we want to do for here is, 2 double crochets into the first stitch, and then we want to do 1 double crochet into the next 7 stitches. And then you just want to repeat that 6 more times. 2 double crochets into the first stitch, 1 double crochet into the next 7 stitches. All right, and then you just simply on this last side, double crochet into the next 22 stitches. Now we've completed row 9. What we want to do for row 10 is same thing, chain 3, turn our work, and then double crochet into the next 21 stitches. Now for our repeats for our end of our bag here, what we want to do is 2 double crochets into the first stitch, and then we want to do 1 double crochet into the next 8 stitches. And then we just want to repeat that 6 more times. 2 double crochets into the first stitch, 1 double crochet into the next 8 stitches. Right. And then what we want to do is simply double crochet into the next 22 stitches. All right, now we've completed row 10. For row 11, we want to chain 3, turn our work, and then double crochet into the next 21 stitches. All right, now for this row, on our end here for our repeats, what we want to do is double crochet 2 times into the first stitch, and then we want to do 1 double crochet into the next 9 stitches. And then you just want to repeat that 6 more times. So that's 2 double crochets into the first stitch, 1 double crochet into the next 9 stitches. All right, and then for the remainder of it, what we want to do is simply double crochet into our next 22 stitches. All right, and that is the end of your 11th round. So for your first piece, you can go ahead and tie off and then make another one. But on your second one, do not tie off, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment with the other piece. So now we're back. We have our 2 halves made. What we're going to do is simply stitch them together. So I'm just setting them out here, and because we did not tie off on this end, let me move it. All right, we want to, I like to place my piece I'm still working off of onto the bottom, and then the other half, first half, on the top. So we're going to go right into that top stitch of that chain 3, and then into that our hook into the top of that last double crochet from the other side. We're simply going to slip stitch right through there to pull them all together. And then we're just going to match up stitch to stitch all the way down the side. And yes, I'm going through both loops on both sides. and now we have that all stitched together, going all the way around our bag. All right, now that it's all stitched together, what we want is a nice little border around the top of our bag. So what we're going to do from here is chain 3, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets per row around the entire opening of the bag. So I find it's best just go about halfway in between one of the double crochet stitches and do a stitch there. And then another one right at where the 2 rows join. So you can see I've done 2 so far. And we just want to repeat that all the way around the entire opening of the bag. And whenever we get to the side over here, just go ahead and do 1 double crochet right into, pull up a loop from where on our seam and do 1 double crochet there. And then once at the back at the beginning, we want to slip stitch into our 3rd chain of our first chain 3 of the round in order to join that. All right, so we finished 1 row for the border. We're going to go ahead and do 1 more row just to kind of pull it all in a little bit nicer. So we go ahead and chain 3, and then we simply, all we want to do is double crochet into each stitch all the way around the opening of the bag. And then once we get to the end, what we want to do is slip stitch into our 3rd chain of our first chain 3 in order to join the entire round. And I'll come back as soon as we're there. All right, so we've done 2 rows around the border, and we've gone ahead and cut off our yarn after we attached it right here. So I'm going to start for our strap right on this same side. So we create our slip knot, and then we want to go to the right from our chain 3 spot, and yes, this will count as a double crochet stitch. And we want to count over 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And into the top of that 8th double crochet, we're just going to go ahead and attach our yarn into that stitch. Then we'll go ahead and chain 3. Then we want to double crochet into the next 16 spaces. All right, so we've made our 16 double crochets across. And if you follow, you can actually see it kind of matches up with where we started going solid onto our bag. And all we want to do is just a repeat of that. So chain 3, turn, and then double crochet into the next 16 stitches. And we'll just keep repeating that until we have a length of our strap that we are happy with. And I'll go ahead and meet you back once I have a strap completed and show you how to attach. All right, we have just completed I've done 33 rows for our bag strap. Now, just a reminder, you might not want to go 16 across like I did, but you know, someone else might want a shorter strap. I wanted a thicker strap for heavier items I might be carrying with it. But I've repeated that 33 times. If you'd like, you can make it shorter or longer. That all depends on you. Now, what we want to do is make sure we don't twist our strap at all. And then we want to go find the other side for the seam. And here we are, here's our top stitch at the top of that seam. And then we want to count over 8 stitches from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We want to take our hook and go through those 2 loops. Then also onto our bag, we want to, that very last top stitches for our last double crochet, we want to go ahead and go through there. And then we just simply want to yarn over and pull through to create our slip stitch. And then we're just going to match up stitch for stitch all the way across so we can join that strap to the other side of the bag body. All right, and then just secure your ends and tie off. And I do like to keep my ends long because it's a little easier to, I find with weaving in, if the ends are long, I could always snip off more as I'm cutting them off. Snip them off after I weave in, and I'm satisfied with that. It's easier to cut off extra than it is trying to add more. And there we have our strap and our bag. And just give me one moment and we'll be back about the fringe. For our fringes, what we are doing is cutting strips of yarn roughly 7.5 inches long. And so for each fringe, we're going to use 2 7.5 inch pieces of yarn. And then you want to find right about the center bottom of your bag. If you want to be specific, you can go ahead and count all the stitches. I like the look of a little bit not so perfectly uniform onto it. And then simply go into your bottom seam stitches. I went through one of the actual slip stitch seam and one of the stitches from the actual bag half. And then you just pull right through those loops, and you want to pull it up just a bit. So it's just pulled up probably about halfway through. And then you simply want to loop over and pull through. And then you just continue repeating that. We're actually going to skip one stitch in between. So the next stitch over, we're going to skip that. So we're going to go to the second stitch and attach our fringe into there. And make sure you continually keep pulling the yarn through the same direction. So that as you see, the loop over is coming through onto the opposite side. And then just continue doing that around your bag. Alright, I've finished up all the fringes onto the bag. I went ahead with 35 total fringes added onto it. I felt I didn't really want them coming all the way up the sides because I think it'd make it look a little bit too clustered. So we just kind of added just the 35 around the bottom for it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button. And by all means, if you do complete this pattern, go ahead and send a photo of your completed work. I'm very excited to see those. And if you want, be sure to share with your friends. And if you'd like to continue getting a free pattern at least once per week, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.